Good day, Africa. My name is ZoeBaraka, and welcome to the AfriWomen Network's Her Story. This episode we are titling, or we have decided to call, The Founding Mothers, Women in the Diaspora Shaping a Legacy. Today we are with one of the titans of African women in development, African women in literature, African women in everything, really. She is not somebody you can introduce. In this instance, I always say Google is your friend. But let me tell you just a little bit about her names. She is Her Excellency, Professor Emerita Abena P Akom Busia. Now, here's the thing. This is not even a quarter of her titles. But for me, or like she just told me a few minutes ago, the Emerita was hard-earned. But I think the one that's even more important is Auntie Abby. Because when you call someone auntie in Africa, or Ghana for that matter, one, it means you respect her. More importantly, it means you really, really love her. And we love Auntie Abena at AfriWomen Network. And today we're just going to go into storytelling. Now, I have had the opportunity to listen to Auntie Abena tell us fantastic stories, and there is always a lesson in there. And today she's just going to take us back to how the AfriWomen Network started, what her role has been in the AfriWomen Network, and what she envisions for the AfriWomen Network. So my job is basically done, because much like you, I just want to sit and just imbibe Auntie Abena's storytelling. So Auntie Abena, you're welcome to the space.
Thank you so much for such a... I think it's the first time I've ever been called a titan. I remember that.
Really? Hey, we did it at the AfriWomen Network. Yes. Yes, Auntie, you're welcome to the Her Story space. And you know what? We're just going to jump into it. Tell us about how you became a founding mother. I like saying that so much because there's so much power behind it. You mothered the AfriWomen Network into existence in a lot of ways. And I just want to know how it began. Where did it start, you know?
Well, to be honest, if you're asking me where it started, I have to go back 25 years.
Yes, let's. That's exciting.
Because for me, AfriWomen is a kind of evolution, third generation. For me, it started with Bisi Adelei Fayemi, Auntie Hilda Tadria, and Joanna Foster inviting me to be on the original board of the African Women's Development Fund.
Wow.
Yes, so that's where, for me, it started, on the streets of New York, laughing, sitting in a restaurant opposite what's now called the UN Millennium Hotel, I think. Having discussions about our mission statement and vision statement, and I had been invited to be on the programs, original board. I was on the programs committee. I in fact became the first programs committee chair. And I used to laugh at them and tease them and say, I got to spend the money that they raised, you know. Because in those early days, you know, they worked so hard to establish AWDF, and they were so thorough about our giving and the guidelines and so on. But, you know, with every new organization, you think things through and experiment. And I was the original programs committee chair, and I had the good fortune of actually being on leave in Ghana that year, so I could go to the office and see how they were getting on. And for me, really learn. I think one of the most instructive things for me at that time was one day when I said to Abigail Bergerson, who was our program, at that time she was the staff member attached to programs committee. And I remember saying to Abigail, I need to understand what happens, how you prepare the docket that comes to us to discuss. Because as far as we're concerned, we got this polished document of everything nicely, who are these people, the breakdown of numbers of things and so on. And I remember going to the office and her walking me through and showing me a proposal as it comes and how they have to discuss it, and you know, if they need to get back to the organization to say, you've given us this, but we need this, or we need this in a different form. It was so enlightening to see the docket go through all the departments. And I think it made me a more effective chair because I could explain to the committee, this is what has happened. Anyway, that's a digression. But,
fantastic digression.
It was working on the African Women's Development Fund. And what happened was, to try and simplify a story, one of the things we realized was that a number of people who were interested in supporting us were Americans and were individuals. That is, AWDF got sponsorship from other organizations and institutions, but the story behind the story I'm telling you was having to think through what could we do to encourage individuals and family foundations who were interested in supporting AWDF in an American tax-giving context.
Got it.
Okay, so that really meant we needed to have a 501c3 in America. That's the tax code number, the American tax code number, to show that you were giving to an established tax-free organization. So we eventually created an American 501c3, which we called AWDF USA. So I was there when AWDF USA was founded, and worked with AWDF and worked with Barbara Phillips, who became the first chair of AWDF USA. And so I think I'm right in that. And by the time all of that was set up, I was rolling off the board. And I was, my 7 years or whatever it was, as programs committee chair was up, and I rolled on to AWDF USA as the secretary. So I was the first secretary of AWDF USA immediately after having served on AWDF USA itself. So we started AWDF USA. And it was technically a struggle, you know, in terms of establishing ourselves, but making it clear that our existence was in order to support AWDF. But we were also very keen on one of the core things that was behind AWDF and also behind the African feminist network, etc. And that is intergenerational support. So we started actively looking for African women in the diaspora based in the United States who could support the growth and the work of AWDF USA. And I remember meeting some of these women, including Mami, in fact, she reminded me that the first time we met was at an African Feminist Forum. Okay. It was the establishment of the African Feminist Forum. And the African Feminist Forum was always very intentional about intergenerational conversations and intergenerational mentoring, and was really the first organization that I worked with that was so clear that intergenerational was a two-way conversation.
Yes.
It was not a top-down, although, but a two-way conversation. And supporting, and that's relevant because the African Feminist Forum is one of those organizations that was initially supported to establish itself by AWDF.
Wow.
Okay, so AWDF has been phenomenal in what it did. So it established the African Feminist Forum. I was again at those first, I think I was at the first 3 or 4. And that's where I made connections with a number of, if you like, next generation African feminists, including Mami. And so,
tell me about that first meeting. I'm so curious about that.
Well, to be honest, if she hadn't recently reminded me, just told me the story, I wouldn't have remembered it as clearly, because at that first, we were in Senegal, we were in Dakar, and I met a number of women at that event. And I think it was Auntie BC who introduced us.
Wow.
And I would not have remembered this, but Mami just told me
that
Auntie BC introduced us, and she said, you know, her name was Mami. And I said, Mami what?
Wow. But why did you ask that, though? Why did you say Mami what?
Because to me, Mami just means mother. It means you're named after somebody, or there is a reason for
the Mami.
It is an honorific referring back to. And I wanted to know who is the person you're named after. I mean, for example, in my family, you could give my whole name. Abena is my day name, Pokwia. Pokwia is my father's mother.
And so they're named after her.
Yes.
Okay.
You see, there are some people who in the family who call me Mami for that reason. Although, to be honest, there are so many of us named after this wonderful woman who had 13 children. My father was the eldest. And that's one of the reasons my name is shortened to Abi. I have another sister, cousin, the daughter of one of my father's brothers, who we call Mami Pokwia all the time. You see.
Got it.
Yes. So if I said to that Mami what? She'd say Mami Pokwia, and I know, like me, she's named after our fathers.
Right.
So that's why I asked the question. You know, anybody who is called Mami, it's in honor of somebody.
What was her response? How did she?
She laughed and she gave me her name. She laughed and she gave me her name.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
But the significance of meeting Mami was that at one point we were anxious about building AWDF USA in the United States. And we had gone for an AWDF USA meeting, and I think it was Jackie Copeland Carson who was the treasurer at that point. And Jackie said to me, you need to know this Ghanaian woman who I'm working with in this area.
Wow.
And we called Mami up, and she was home. She had young children, but we agreed to go meet her. So we went to meet her in her home. And I always tell her, so we went to her house.
You guys were that intentional.
Oh yes,
it wasn't
very
like
intentional.
just a phone call. Like,
no. We went to meet her. No, I was in California, so I'd flown to California for an AWDF USA meeting.
Okay.
And she had not yet joined. But we were intentional about looking for people. So when I tell her she was ambushed, I mean, she
really just got into her house and said, come on board.
And basically persuaded her that she needed to be part. We were trying to create a network at that time of people who would host functions in their homes. I even forget what we called they weren't house parties, but it was the equivalent.
Something else.
We had an organization, and we were trying to create organizations around people in different cities, and the Southern California area was one of them, and we had another in Chicago, and in New Jersey we were working with Moyata, and so we really, it became a who do you know hands-on sisterhood
Right.
creating to get people to work with AWDF USA. And so that's how I met Mami, and she became involved with AWDF USA, helped us do things, helped us plan, organize events, especially around CSW.
Right.
She flew out for Commission on the Status of Women. She flew out, we were launching, yes. She recorded a song for us.
Oh.
It's all coming back to me, you see.
See, when we sit with Mommy, we're going to have to ask her.
You have to ask her for the details.
Song. Yes.
What was that? It couldn't have been the 20th anniversary because that's too late. Maybe it was the 10th anniversary, 15th. The 15th anniversary of AWDF. We had a function at the Commission on the Status of Women. AWDF had been launched at CSW. What had happened was, again, AWDF had become legal, they'd done all the paperwork, they'd chosen the office here in Ghana, but it hadn't been announced. And BC Joanna and Hilda Tadria had decided to have a cocktail party at which they would announce the establishment of AWDF. I was the MC. I was the MC, I think, for almost every AWDF event for its first 15 years. When I was there, I was MC in Ghana, I was the MC in Uganda, I was MC in South Africa, I was the MC.
Just, wow.
And I've never forgotten, because of course, BC and the others had done a lot of groundwork, so they knew they would be supporting. But that announcing was done at that meeting. And we raised, I've never forgotten some of the African women handing over their per diem to say,
did you say
this is
they
good.
handed over their
They
per
handed
diem?
over their per diem. Some of them handed over just to say, we're with you. Well done. Have your back. So it was incredible. Anyway, roll forward 15 years, I'm still the MC. Mami has been working with us a few years at that point, and she recorded a song for us. We had a wonderful party. It was great. There are so many steps. There's so many stories behind AWDF USA as well. But one of the things that happened was that these networks grew and the conversations grew, and the women who were supporting AWDF USA started supporting each other in terms of, can we get together? Can we hang out? Do you know this? I have this issue.
Can you help me?
And a kind of informal network grew. How it becomes formalized is, I'm very, very proud of Mami, because what happened was 2 years later, 2 years, about 5 years after I met her or so, but 2 years after this celebration, in 2017, I am appointed ambassador to Brazil. And so in 2017, well, there's so many steps I've missed because Barbara Phillips had stepped down as chair, and then Jackie Copeland Carson resigned suddenly.
Oh, wow.
And so I had become chair of yes, Barbara Phillips had stepped down. I forget the dates, I'm sorry, but Jackie Copeland Carson had replaced Barbara as chair. But she, for various reasons, had resigned suddenly. And so I had, at that point, become chair. I think I became chair in about 2012, something like that. So I'd been chair for about 5 years, 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
Mami was on the board. But when in 2017, I knew I would be going to Brazil, I didn't think that it would be good to remain chair while I was ambassador. I was happy to stay on the board, but I didn't think I should be chair, especially as, you know, it was an unknown quantity. I wasn't going to be physically in the United States, etc. And by consensus, Mami was it. So Mami...
Wait, you say Mami became the chair?
She became chair.
Wow.
Of AWDF USA, absolutely. So she replaced me. So Jackie Copeland-Carsland, who'd been with me when we ambushed Mami, replaced Barbara Phillips.
Okay.
And then I replaced Jackie, and Mami replaced me.
Look at that.
That's the chain of
story.
association.
Wow.
Yes. But if you're talking about AfriWomen, for me, one of the really powerful things Mami did was to recognize that need for networking and, if you like, institutionalize it and make it. She was more intentional about creating us as a network. We started having conversations. She worked with Moyata on the early versions of this, the diaspora, who worked on AfriWomen, on AWDF USA in New Jersey.
Got it.
You see.
Okay.
So there were, and
and
Moyata had been a Rutgers student. I actually hadn't known her when she was at Rutgers, but she came and found me through AWDF. So she was working with AWDF USA in Southern Jersey and so on. So there are all these interlinking things, and Moyatu and Mami started working on what I call the intergenerational networking, like the Diaspora Her podcast and so on.
Her story.
The Her Stories.
Which is what we're doing now.
Exactly.
Right.
This has its origins back then in those podcasts, you see. But then for me, I think the key turning point was COVID. Was COVID.
Madam COVID.
And for me, it was so important also because I'm in Brazil at that point. But in COVID, the COVID webinars became for us a survival network. Because then, because it was COVID, we also, again under Mami's leadership, and at that point she's also working with Nana, who's our new secretary.
Right, yeah,
at
Dr.
that point,
Nana.
Dr. Nana,
Okay.
who became doctor during this process. I mean, absolutely, absolutely. She got her degree during this process. We all sent her the flowers and so on. So she became doctor with us, as it were. We were her chorus line. But what happened was the support networks became intentional. If I remember correctly, the very first webinar we had under COVID was in support of our health workers.
Yes.
Okay, we realized how many African women were in the global north, giving their time and sacrificing their lives.
I was one of them.
That was the first one. Wow. That was the first AWDF USA AfriWomen, and at that point AfriWomen was kind of an offshoot still of AWDF USA. It was a project of AWDF USA, and it became solidified and strong under COVID with those webinars, and that was the first one. The health one was the first one. So there we were in different parts of the world, different parts of the continent, sharing our experience and our expertise and so on about how to survive COVID. In fact, we heard about the death of that Ghanaian. Remember at the very beginning, there was a Ghanaian nurse who had died in the UK, and
Oh,
another
I hadn't
one
heard of
who
that.
had, yes, who was ill in the United States.
Her
There
I
were-
heard about. But
Yes. Oh,
okay.
yes. There was one in the UK. There was one.
Wow.
So we were getting news of African women nurses in the health sphere who were literally dying, and so we held the first one because some of us in the network were health workers.
Yes.
So it was both a combination of we are here to talk to you, got your back, as well as educational in terms of what are we learning about COVID, what can we do about it, and what can we do to keep our health. And the health, not just, fighting the virus, but our mental health in isolation.
Right.
And so
All of that,
that's what led to, and that's when we realized, we had so much wealth amongst us in terms of who we are and what we've done. So we organized, I think we had 4 that COVID year, one on health, another one on the health profession in COVID, one on wellness, one on financial health, and I can't remember the 4th.
I think philanthropy.
Yes,
Mami was
yes,
talking about philanthropy.
yes. You can see the connections, how the story
Yes.
developed. One came out of the other. So that, and of course, it being COVID, all of this was virtual. And we were signing in from all over the continent and all over the United States. And we were taking note of who was on. I seem to remember at one point there was a 13 or 15-year-old
Wow.
who had joined on, 16, something like that. And so we thought, wow, this intergenerational thing is really working. And so it was after that that we decided to become an official network, not just a hangout, as it were. And the network became more intentional, more organized, and we outdoored ourselves in March of 2021. Again, it's still virtual. I believe I was the speaker. Somewhere I've got the speech I gave. I can't remember what it was.
I remember it.
Oh, okay. Yes, so that was the process. And so since 2021 then, we've been a network operating that side of our work, operating independently of AWDF in terms of our organization, our subject matter, and so on. Just, we are a group of women, intergenerational diaspora women, who needed to talk to each other.
So
Yes.
if you want to really boil it down, then the AfriWomen Network is about not passing on legacy, but exchanging legacy. Would you say that? Because
Yeah, I think exchanging is a good idea, but they're not mutually exclusive.
okay,
They're not mutually exclusive. Exchanging is good because it's important for us mothers and mentors to recognize, especially in this changing world,
yes,
that we have a lot to learn from our daughters. The world they live in is so very different from the world we grew up in, and it's changing so much
and so fast.
faster. It's just
Yes.
frightening, But when I say they're not mutually exclusive, I say that because there is a danger in a rapidly changing world of forgetting histories, forgetting where we started, forgetting what came before. And it is dangerous to assume that you're inventing everything anew. Things look very different, but they're based on something. I like to tell a story that became my personal metaphor for heritage. Many years ago, I was asked to speak. I went to Rochester, New York, to do a faculty development workshop. But I had some time, and Rochester, New York is the home of the Eastman Kodak.
yes,
And the Eastman Kodak home, the original home of Mr. whatever his name was, Eastman, I think Thomas, is now the museum. It's a beautiful, stately home, and it's a museum for Kodak. And the year I went was the year of the centenary of the Brownie camera.
Oh.
And it was fascinating. They had a display. Maybe the cabinet was the length of this wall, maybe slightly shorter, but they had this beautiful glass cabinet, the length of this wall, in which they displayed every brownie ever made.
What?
For the 100 years, every brownie ever made. But what struck me, and why it became my metaphor for tradition, was that if you look at the latest brownie and the first brownie, like no resemblance.
Night and
if
day.
you say they are the same family, you're crazy. There was like no resemblance.
Wow.
But if you looked at any 2 or 3 brownies anywhere along the chain, the resemblance was clear. Like the very first one was big and boxy and had kind of sharp corners and, you know, those concertina noses that...
Right.
Yeah. So the second one was slightly smaller and they'd managed to make the concertina nose a little shorter. The third one, the box had changed slightly. But literally, you could pick any 3 along the line and it was clear they were family. And you got to the end, it was clear they were family. So the sequencing, you didn't need anybody to tell you what the change was. But if you looked at the first and the last, and somebody told you they were related, you'd think they were crazy.
Wow.
And that became, as an academic who studies tradition and so on, my metaphor. I call it, very often what we miss is the knowledge of the cameras in between. And I think this kind of thing reminds us of the cameras in between.
Wow.
And they are very important. Otherwise, your story makes no sense.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, thank you for sharing this story, Auntie, because, and also for even reminding us about the outdooring of the AfriWomen Network, because I was there, and I remember in the beginning of your speech, you had talked about the naming ceremony. I don't know if you remember that. Do you remember that?
Yes,
yes. Was that it? Yes. It was the naming ceremony
of children.
Yes, of children, because we were just about to find out about the AfriWomen Network, why the AfriWomen Network. And I know I'm putting you on the spot right now, and of course I'm not asking you to give us the entire speech, but why the AfriWomen Network? How did that come about? Do you have a story about that? I know Mommy will fill in the spot when she does come in.
She really led that discussion. But I think simply it is because it's not hierarchical, it's not one line, it's it's a network. And we are African descent women, African and African descent women. I think that's very straightforward. Yes, that's who we are. Yeah. Wow. Let me throw you back or forward 50 years. What do you see the AfriWomen Network being? This is your legacy. And of course, we don't have control over how a story... I knew this would excite you. I can't look forward 5 years. You know?
But see, let's get creative, because we're creative.
On that subject, as we have to get the story right, I realize I need to correct something.
Okay.
Jackie Copeland Carson came in as executive director.
Okay.
The treasurer worked out of her office.
Okay.
But in fact, she was on the board. I'm getting all this. She was on the board, and we did a national search to replace Barbara Phillips. And while we were doing that, we realized that we knew the person we were already looking for, and so did she. So Jackie resigned from the board in order to be able to compete for the position of our executive director.
Wow.
So I need to get
You
that
needed to
right.
get that right. And thank you. Yes, that's it. No, it's important. The facts are important, right? Because we're telling the story of the founding mothers of that, of that development. Yeah.
And I also remembered that Mami and I visited Musimbi Wanyoro.
Okay.
Because Mami had been with the Global Fund, and Musimbi had just, I believe, taken over from Kavita Ramdas as president of the Global Fund, and we were there at an event and went to see Musimbi. Again, you see, the sisterhood networks and the philanthropic networks were so are very important to how do we know each other, how do we recognize each other, you know, because it was African American Jackie Copeland Carson who'd worked with Mami in a different context, who introduced me to Mami, who then said, you must know Musimbi, who I did from another context, etc. I mean, I'm now still working with Musimbi on a different feminist network. It is not an African network. In fact, the founder is Australian, but it's the Busara Circle because it's a circle of wise women in the humanities from a lot of us African or indigenous who are mentoring women in the sciences, in leadership roles, etc., etc., etc. But I just wanted to make sure that we got that right.
Wow.
What was the question you just asked me?
I had just thrown you into the future, like 50 years.
Oh yes, into the future. Well, I won't be here.
Well, I don't know. God is interesting like that. You say that, but you don't know.
120 something, I don't think so. But I think what I hope for is one, that the network remains strong. And that you find a way to grow, but remain strong. By that I mean, it is possible to become too diffuse. We're not putting limits on anything, but I hope we find a way to remain connected in a way that's meaningful. And we don't just become a list of names on a WhatsApp site, you know, where people don't show up and people don't know each other. And maybe we grow so large we have regional networks or something. That is, I hope we stay connected as a network. And I also hope, it seems strange, but I also hope we recognize that we don't have to do anything but support each other. That is, we have other organizations. AWDF is still there. The other organizations are still there. We are a support network. We are flexible. We respond to what our needs are or might be. We responded to a health crisis. We are conscious of the need for financial health. Let's stay responsive. Too often when we become institutions or institutionalize ourselves, we become rigid and exist to support the purpose rather than the purpose existing to support us.
You.
So let's beware of that. Let's beware of that. Let's never forget, if we have modus operandi, let's never forget why we created them. And if we need to change them, let's change them. I don't want to, put the civil service on the carpet, but I say that having spent 7 years as an ambassador, where Ghana's foreign service is an arm of the domestic civil service, which has rules and regulations which we must follow. And I understand why we must follow rules and regulations. I used to chafe, But after 7 years, I do understand why. But I wish there was greater review of the intentions and the reasons behind
them,
so that there was some more flexibility, especially the difference between the domestic and the foreign. So I'm just saying that is why I say that, because I've just spent 7 years observing what can happen when institutions become institutional for the sake of being institution, and sometimes forget who or what they're supposed to be supporting.
Wow.
So let us not forget
That.
that we're supposed to be supporting each other, and let's meet that flexibility. Yeah.
Wow. Auntie Abby, this has been a wonderful conversation. In fact, I wish we could just sit here and listen to story after story after story. Unfortunately, we can't do that because time does move on.
Yes.
And it's a cliche question, this last one, where they say, what would be your last words? But I feel like you've already given us your last words in that we should just stay connected.
Yes.
And just stay responsive.
Yes.
And change.
Yes.
You know, and I'm not trying to be biblical, but Paul said that he tried to be all things to all humans. I believe maybe that's what you're trying to tell us at the AfriWomen Network. See, that's why I wanted a story about the names. Why not the African Women Network, and why the AfriWomen Network? And maybe Mami would tell me more, but you have an answer, so let's go.
Well, no, I'm just saying briefly, it's what is your notion of African?
There you
And we are a diaspora organization, and those amongst us have multiple identities.
Thank you.
We wanted to be able to indicate that we are rooted on Africa, but we are not necessarily, besides which we're practically a virtual organization. But it was to indicate the wings, if you like, of the organization, that we are from everywhere, and not just diaspora, not just continental, and also to recognize that even on the continent we are diasporic. We have people born in Ghana, raised in Sierra Leone, who are living in South Africa, or what have you. That is a diasporic woman too. You know.
Wow.
So we were trying to be flexible.
Yes, and to just embrace everybody,
Yes.
which is what the
Yes.
AfriWomen Network
Yes.
is.
Yes.
You know, I feel so enriched today because for the first time, and I do hope that everyone that's watching us will feel the same way, because for the first time, finally, everything clicks, right? About the AfriWomen Network, about the development world, the women development world, the diaspora world.
Yes.
Suddenly it's all clicking,
Yes.
right? Because you sat with us and you shared your stories. And I am so thankful that you took time to do that. And I believe that everyone at the AfriWomen Network will say thank you. And today we honor you. Should I say, Your Excellency, Professor Emerita Abena P. Busia. We are so grateful you came through, because you just literally connected the dots for us. And I'm looking at a bigger picture where we get to even share bigger stories way past the African Women Network and begin to do that intergenerational thing that we started years ago. So thank you for your presence.
Right. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Absolutely. And if you're listening, you know, you heard Mami, Mami, Mami the whole time between the two founding mothers of the AfriWomen Network. We will be back next time. And next time in the chair will be Mami Afon herself telling us the story of the AfriWomen Network. And so until next time, my name is ZoeBaraka, and this space is the Hair Story space on the AfriWomen Network. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye.